2. Last time we checked in with Edward was in November, and I guess we got so excited that Donald Trump won that we are now back here. What is it, March 25th?
I know, right?
We're back, though. We're back. The Yankee and the Canuck show is back. Dude, I was scrolling through the X thing, and I saw Kash Patel, at the new FBI director, is playing in tonight's charity congressional hockey game. And I was like, what more perfect way to open up episode 2 of the Yankee and the Canuck?
I know, right? Yeah, that's the first I heard of that was when you had made mention of it.
Yeah, there it is. He's on video walking out.
Oh, great. I didn't even know he played hockey. Or maybe it's going to...
I had no idea. I got to be honest with you. And I think it's cool because, as you know, I grew up in northern Indiana along not far from the shores of Lake Michigan. So we had winter. I got lucky. We grew up across the street from a lake, but we also had a half-acre pond in the yard, which was about the size of a hockey ring.
Yep, and love that.
All winter long, my entire neighborhood played hockey after school.
I know.
Until we were all screamed at to come in and eat.
Yeah. Hey, that's how we grew up here. Same thing. Any pond, and there's so many of them around. I mean, that's all we did was played hockey after school, sometimes during school. But, yeah, and weekends was always just, just good games going on with all the, friends and neighborhood kids combined. It was so many. It was great stuff. So, yeah, those were the days. So, yeah, you know exactly what's going on with where you came from. Yes, because that's winter there for sure. It's like the same here in southern Ontario. No difference. So, yeah.
It would be about the same parallel on a map, right?
Yeah, it is.
Indiana. It's the same weather. And I remember, like, my dad, he felt like he was the one that he wanted to be the Zamboni driver, but all he had was a hose. And so he'd go out and he installed floodlights on the side of our house that faced the pond. He'd throw on the floodlights if it wasn't a weekend because we were supposed to be inside. Getting ready for school the next day. But he'd be out there just holding a hose, putting down a fresh coat of ice for us for tomorrow's after school.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Those good times. Those were the days. I love that. And you know what? Our countries have changed so much now, and people too. I guess society that we don't have. We don't have that anymore. The kids aren't doing what we did as kids growing up. Now they're more inside, playing video games and whatever. Yep. But it's just not the same anymore. But yeah, that's just how we grew up. It was great. So, and here we are now in these same countries. Ours is a mess. You got out of you dodged a big cannonball, really. So yeah, big mess. And now you're back to normal, not just normal. You're banging on all 8 cylinders, racing there. So good for you guys. Now we have to get ours up and going now. And what's going on now, politically speaking? The landscape is just, it's rough. It's just, I don't know what you're following there on your news.
Just for the viewers, again, it's been since November since we've done one of these. So since then, we called for Trudeau to be ousted. It happened. He finally quit. You guys then held no elections because the party was still in power, which is a little bit different in our system, right? Yeah. If Trump says, for whatever reason, health issue or whatever else, if he quits, automatically J.D. Vance would assume power. Now, he wouldn't be president yet. He'd be president pro tempore. But like the Senate and the Congress, they're not going to mess with that. And he could just ride out the entire time as pro tempore, the same power. You guys, basically, it was the party because they're in power, not the vice president as second in charge, just the party selected without a vote of the citizens, a prime minister until when, though?
Yeah, it's a bit different than what you had down there, of course. You know what? Not as good as a system either. I'd much rather have a republic than a monarchy, which is what we have here.
Yep.
It's brought over from the old days, old country where you guys got you kicked them out basically and started up a great country where we're still hanging onto the crown for whatever reason, which they don't even pay much mind to us anyway. Just collect the taxes off the top. That's about it. And now with all the taxes we're paying, wow, it's incredible. But yeah, we gotta, and we're working on that. It's just with the Canada 51 thing and what your President Trump was saying about taking over Canada, I thought was funny, good. And now we didn't talk about the CPAC speech he gave back in 2022, did we? Last show we did, because he wasn't even in power then. That was what, October? No, I don't remember when the last show we did.
He was still living somewhere in the UK. This guy.
Oh yeah, you're talking. Yeah, that dumb Carney, Marxist Carney. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? When Donald Trump talked about Canada in the 2022 CPAC speech he gave, and I can't remember what CPAC even stands for, like Conservative Party Action Committee or something. I can't remember, but it's something like that. Anyways, he was seeing what the government was doing to us citizens and was just appalled by it. And said he was going to definitely help out. And maybe this is the answer that we've all been kind of looking for, is real U.S. help from what Biden had done to us, as we talked about back then when Biden and Trudeau got together with, the Give, Send, Go, and the other one, GoFundMe. And yeah, and just annihilated basically the whole Freedom Convoy. So here we are finding ourselves now. Trump got in, thank God, and now we are in this position where we got to turn our government out. We just got to get. You know what? If it was my way, I'd get rid of all 338 of the crooks, as every one of them are complicit into where we find ourselves today. Now, one person has stood up, and that takes a real leader to stand up against and going against the grain, and not one had done it. We had Pierre, stand up, I guess once or twice during the Freedom Convoy for a few minutes, but never actively really got involved in saying, "Hey, this is downright wrong," and went after everybody. Not one peep. You have to go against the grain, to be a true leader and stand up for the people. He's not true leadership material. And the real leader will do that. They will take, on the status quo, go against it, and say, "Hey, this is the direction we got to go, and you've pigeonholed us here. We got to get out." And not one person had done that. Maxime Bernier, I guess would be the truest of all the leaders. But I don't know how much traction, we'll get out of that guy. No one really wants another French prime minister. We've just had it up to here, the West Coast especially. Not so much around Ontario at large, maybe Southern Ontario, where I'm from, yeah. But, pretty much he's the favorite guy, but he won't get in it, I don't think. But what no one's really talking about in our country today, they're still so taken back by this liberal government, and I don't even know if it's true media reporting from the polls or maybe not. Maybe it's just baloney. But when you look at our country today, Canada's been pretty much gutted. It's been gutted for, God, years and years, decades. It started with the fisheries in the East Coast. And today, we've not only got rid of the fisheries, the pulp and paper mills have gone. They've pretty much stopped everything. Oil and gas comes down to a drip. Now, we talked about the two pipelines being put on hold or pretty much just got rid of, and I guess now they're going to start back up with those two pipelines. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But yeah, this is what they've taken the country down to a crawl, economically speaking, where we can't produce anything. Everything they talked about, is stopped. From, like I said, fisheries, pulp and paper, all the industries we had. except for the auto. It's all been squashed, really not quashed, but and hey, all the minerals, Ring of Fire, Northern Ontario. That was another thing that was supposed to be going. That was 10 years ago. Nothing's happened. Chalk River, the uranium isotopes we use for more or less the medical field. I don't even know what's going on with that these days. But the whole thing's come to a standstill. Trump comes along and says, "Hey, yeah, even though we're supposed to be falling to the United Nations or the WEF and say, okay, we're in trouble. Please help us, save us." Trump comes in and says, no, we'll take it. I mean, we'll buy it right out. I mean, the country's gone to hell in a handbasket. It's not really worth anything anymore because they have nothing economically they're producing. So he comes in and says, yeah, we'll do it. So now we have an opportunity to go to the States rather than the European Union, which is going to fall to one of those two entities. No one wants to admit that because, like I said, the country's been gutted. We're going nowhere, and it's going to get worse unless someone does open it up, like your president already did for your country. Open up trade again. Let's get industry back. Let's get it rolling again. He's doing this, getting rid of regulations. Overly regulated. We're getting killed right there.
Oh yeah.
So this is where we stand right now, and people just haven't woken up to the reality. There is no country left anymore. It's been gutted a long time ago. We're just a standing skeleton frame of a country, and that's what's left. So I hope Trump does do something. If not, anything but. He doesn't even have to take us over to the 51st state. At least it's going to get people thinking and start to stand up for who we were once as a people and say, hey, we do have an identity after all, and go back to where we came from. Yeah, this is us. And no, it's not Islamic. It's not all these other, religions coming in today to drown us out. We're going back to real God-founded country like America, founded on that very principle at the cornerstone, and build from there. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But this is where we find ourselves right now today. After all that time, from last we talked, here we are. And yeah, let's hope for good news. I'm hoping.
So, all right, and you said that one of the things you pointed out. By the way, in case you don't know, so we've done a lot of upgrades to the show since the last time you were on. We are live on TikTok, or no, sorry, on X right now. That's a live video on X. We're live on Locals. We're live on Twitch. I will upload these later because I have to render them. Upload these later to YouTube and to Spotify. So we're going to be on basically everything except Apple. And you know what? Apple wants to charge me a fee to post there, and I have to provide the actual. I can't just upload the file. Yeah, Apple, go fund yourself. I'm not funding you. So we're just going to run without you.
I didn't even know you had all that stuff up and going right now for us. That's a lot of changes you've made there. Holy smokes. Yes.
Yeah, dude, we're moving up in the world, moving on up. So,
yeah, we are.
I want to get to Pierre Polivier, right? So the apple eater. Everyone's like,
yeah,
that's cool. He could eat an apple on an interview. And I was like, he's not conservative. And he's trying to sound Canadian first against Trump. Okay. I still think it's the wrong play because he's talking just like the Liberal Party is talking as, we'll tariff you to death. USA will die. And none of that's true. You don't have the GDP to win a trade war.
I know. No one's figured that out yet, but yeah, you're right. And I'm not, you know what? There comes a time when tariffs are needed. And now the one that we should be charging the most for is China. And the one that we don't get any money off of is China. I already talked about the fisheries being closed down the East Coast because it said they're being overfished. Yeah, you know who's overfishing them? China, with their great big fishing trawlers coming in, scooping up all the fish every day and canning them right on the ships, selling them back to us, and America. And the rest of the world, they're selling our product back to us and everybody else, and that's our product we should be. Yeah, it's just nonsense where we find ourselves today, and the poor trade policies. You know how Trump always talked about that. Well, we suffer from that and more, probably 10 times worse than the Americans. And I wish people would understand what tariffs really do, but they won't. And they are necessary in a lot of circumstances. Not everyone. I'm not really saying I'm a tariff fan, because definitely not for the states and Canada should be kind of, because we've had this. It's so deep. There's so many things we have to consider that no one really does. But yeah, that's just a ridiculous war we find ourselves in. It's just going to hurt Canada even more,
Yes.
but the Canadians don't really realize that yet. But yeah, that's just a slow boil. Yeah.
I get Canadians all of a sudden having a sort of a feeling of patriotism against Trump.
Well, yeah. Well, it depends.
Okay,
I mean,
okay, but tariffs, and I think Trump is either going to learn this or he knows this, and he just hasn't explained it well enough. Is the tariffs are used to level playing fields. They're not supposed to be meant for permanent fixtures in society. Uh,
no,
look, all of a sudden you've got Nvidia, you've got Apple looking through Foxconn, their contractor. You've got other massive chip manufacturers going, uh-oh. You got Hyundai, you got like all these companies that have proposed $1 billion in investment over the next 4 years to build to manufacture it in the United
no, no. I
States.
see that. Yeah, I see that.
And
And
that's
a
what
lot
you
of
want. And then once you have them here, it costs them money if they want to leave. You can ease the tariffs on China if China starts playing friendly, right? And if
we
they
know.
don't start playing friendly, you just crank the dial up and down, up and down, up and down until you get what's favorable and what works for the United States first, but then the West. And that's what we got going on. We'll talk about
Well,
what
you
we.
Well, yeah, and you know what? There's so much more. Everybody talks about the stock market, and that's a good thing to talk about. It gets in some things, but nobody really wants to talk about the bond market, which is like what 10, 12 times bigger than the stock market. It's huge. In most countries, at a trade, won't trade back and forth dollar for dollar. They'll buy bonds out of a country so they don't have to take the hit on the dollar. So they'll just buy bonds, like a U.S. Treasury bond or something, or a Canadian bond, so they don't have to worry about the trade of money dollars back and forth. So it's favorable for more for them, and they take in an investment in the country that way. So, but they also can cash in, whenever they want and get the 6 month, the 1 year, or 10 year, whatever. So we're doing that more now. So you don't have to worry about the dollar value so much. Everybody's, oh, what about this? So what? I mean, there's so many ways around that people aren't even thinking about. It's ridiculous. So when everybody goes off on our failing dollar, and yeah, our dollar is artificially lowered. The Americans been complaining about that now for decades, because
Yes.
we do artificially lower our dollar so that it keeps supposedly keeping the Canadians from going across the border. Because as you already know, 80% of us live almost at the border. So, I mean, we can run back and forth to buy, clothes, cars if you want, but groceries, gas, you name it. A lot of people still do that today. So offsetting the dollar is supposed to keep us from doing that, and maybe it does work. I don't know, because the banks seem to get richer, which is the government, by charging the fees for changing from Canadian to American and then back again. They make a fortune off us just on that alone. So they're making money off us hand over fist. Some guy said that the government's collecting something like $600 billion off us in taxes a year. That's so far off. You get in the tariffs and everything else that the Canadian government's raking off us. It's going to be over $1 trillion if you account for everything they make off us a year. And we find ourselves in debt, 1.5 trillion, maybe even 2 trillion now. But we could wipe that out if we wanted to. Well, a lot quicker if we get rid of that stupid healthcare system we got. Please, America, don't get a healthcare system like we got. It's the most ridiculous, retarded thing, and expensive, that you can't control. Once the government gets its hands in it, you can't ever fix it, because they got 50 of their lawyers paid for by your tax dollars against your one lawyer. You'll never win. I mean, you're out of the game altogether. Once you hand over that control and power to the government, you're done. But Canadians, as dumb as well, they think they're so damn smart. Like, whoa, we're so much smarter than America because our teachers told us in public school. Yeah, come on, shut up. Yeah, this is where we're at today with our teachers. Even I mean, it's just pathetic. Oh,
Well, and it's funny. You and I have had this conversation. We've known each other a long time. So, for those of you tuning into episode 2, Edward and I know each other pretty well.
yeah.
With this conversation about free medical, right? No, it's not. Well, it's not free. Come on.
That's not free. Yeah,
And
not free.
second, all of my family that's Canadian or Canadian dual citizen U.S., they'll go for their yearly GP appointment, but they don't like if there's a surgery they need a hip, something like that. They're like, dude, I'm not waiting a year, and I'm not gonna not be able to walk for a year so that I can right wait for my free appointment. I'm just gonna go pay for the surgery out of pocket in the United States.
You know, that's they even made a law against us going to America for different surgeries, making it against the law to do that because everybody, was going to the States because it's so much quicker and faster and you know what? Better service by far. I must be rather be looked after by an American doctor any day than the ones we have up here. And I don't know, it's because they're hamstrung from different regulations, or I don't know what it is, but the doctors in America and lots of my friends that go there today for different things are amazed at the service and the skill of the American way they look after healthcare because they do it in a preventative way where we just fix up what we have ailing us at the moment, where America goes farther than that. They go not just that, but preventative as far as what could happen later on down the road. They're not so pragmatic, which I can't stand. Pragmatists I cannot stand because it just works for today, and that's basically our whole medical system today is being a pragmatic. Just let's get it fixed and heal it today. Forget what is interdependent on that thing for tomorrow. We don't care. It's just good for today. If they get sick again next month, next year, we don't care. We fixed the problem now. That's a pragmatist. I'm more prismatic in my approach where it's multifaceted, where we're looking at things in many different ways to fix a problem, not just one way. And as long as it fixes the leak today with duct tape, I don't care if the duct tape explodes tomorrow. We fixed it now. And that's the mentality we have right now in our medical system, which drives me insane. And people accept it because they don't know any better. They have no clue. Now, if they went to America and had something done, well, hopefully no one needs the services of the medical community, period. But, at some point in time, maybe a lot of us are going to have to. But it's just so much better down there.
Yeah, well, so I want to circle back actually to something you said in the beginning. So when does Canada get elections? When does that happen?
April 28th is when we're going to have it. It was just called Sunday. I don't even know if you're aware of that. That just came out Sunday. Now,
right.
Yeah. Marx's Carney.
Roughly 33 days from now.
Right, yeah. So, and I don't even know why that happened the way it did. I know you're saying, how did we get this new leader, which was voted in by, some foreign nationalist and a few people here, and he comes back from Europe because when he left, before he left, he said, yeah, we're going to have an election sometime, no later than November. We didn't really know. Goes to the European Union or maybe visits, what's that guy's name? Klaus Schwab, the 9-year-old schoolgirl mentality guy, and comes back after a week and says, yeah, election time coming up, April 28th. I'm thinking, you didn't know before you left. What was the visit going to do for you over there that all of a sudden now you're so sure in calling an election now at this day when you didn't know beforehand? You're just retarded how these libtards work. It's just mind blowing. You're a Democrat. You know exactly. You have Democrats. They're the same as our libtard or liberals up here. And yeah, they're retarded. That's why I use that word because they have no reasoning capabilities whatsoever.
So if Justin Trudeau had not stepped down, though, the original elections were supposed to be in October, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Uh-huh. October 25th, I think it was going to be. They moved it up a couple days so they could get all their pensions in or something. I can't remember all the gamesmanship going on, shenanigans, as they would say. But yeah, that's so. Yeah, that's how it's changed now. And I'm not, as you know, a liberal fan by any means because I'm a small government type of guy, not this large, overwhelming, unaffordable government that everybody wants and thinks that they're going to take so good care of us with our tax dollars at work. But forget one thing, as the communist says, when we run out of money, then what? There's nowhere to go.
Right.
We've taken all the money away from the people. Now we basically have to work for free. And we're going back to socialist. Well, actually, we're going to communism. And that happens overnight almost. I mean, socialism's only job is to usher in communism. We've talked about that 100 times, and it's a fact. And these people in parliament even saying, yeah, I'm a socialist. I love socialism. What they're saying is, yeah, I'm a true communist is what they're saying. But they don't want the people to know that. That's kind of like you wake up one morning and you can't cross the border because they're all closed. You can't leave the country anymore. And people don't realize that. They think, when communism comes in, I'm just running. Well, where? You can't cross the you can't you're not going anywhere. But people are so stupid they don't realize that. They don't realize and remember history. Even East and West Germany, they don't remember the wall. They don't know anything. They're stupid. And this is why, Canadians running around thinking they're so damn smart, which really the arrogance, just the pompous arrogance that these Canadians have is, and I'm a Canadian, I can say that, but and I don't stand alone, by the way. I know lots of people feel and think the same way I do as far as Canadians go. And the ads I'm talking about, elbows up, that retarded thing, where you can't make it, legally. So it's by hook or by crook, whatever it's going to take to get this election through. So we're empowering it. And this is the dirty play of elbowing and elbows up, which is what's going on right now. This new phrase or saying we have, campaign ad phrase, where it's elbows up and down and dirty and we'll get it somehow done.
Right.
That's where it's childlike. It's childlike.
Well, again, they're trying to. Obviously, they're using the bot farming. It's very clear they're using bot farming, probably paid for by leftover money from USAID through the WEF, and UN.
Yep.
And they're all over all the social media platforms, like elbows up, Canada strong, Canada first. And you look at it, and you're like, these accounts have 12 followers.
I know.
Not serious accounts. They're clearly bot accounts, and they're going in and they're just trying to wrestle with the American influencer accounts that have, some of these accounts have 2 or 3 million people following them. And for some reason, social media blows me away. For some reason, people take the bait and go fight them. And I'm like,
I know.
Before you fight them, open up the account. If they have 12 followers and they've been on since November of 2013, it's a bot.
No, I know. That's right. Hey, it took me a while to figure that out too, Sean. So I'm just as much of a dum dum. So yeah, you're correct in saying that.
So whatever the next cool thing is, they'll change that profile. That's why it's existed since 2013 and has no followers. They'll just change the profile picture and say, I'm pro Hamas. I mean, Palestine.
Funny.
Before I start fighting with anybody, I actually look at the account to see if it's actually a real person.
Yeah. You mentioned USAID, and I couldn't believe the amount of money some of these Canadian universities were getting. Now, remember, we have pretty high admissions into these universities. I could not believe the amount of money the University UBC British Columbia was getting out of USAID and some of the other ones. I said, wow, I mean, all the money that we're giving these universities, and they're still collecting millions and millions more from USAID, and I forget how many millions it was. It was crazy. I'm thinking you could build an entire new university and campus with that kind of money. What are they doing with it? So, yeah, the propaganda machine is alive and well here, and it's not just with USAID, because a lot of it's coming from Europe too. We got the WEF sponsoring, which is a United Nations branch, as you already know. So we got them supporting us and putting all kinds of money into these campaigns too, which is going to derail the original campaign platform a lot of these people are riding on now. So when you look at the advertising going out, the bot farms created, it's all coming from them. So it's, well, again, as America already went through that same thing, the amount of money that these politicians get from these special interest groups or NGOs is ridiculous. And
So
we're experiencing that now.
did you see? You guys are you're more independent than Australia, but Australia also under the crown, right?
Yeah.
USAID money. They had their government had to hold an all hands emergency meeting because USAID funding stopped going to 8 of their universities.
Oh, wow.
Why was America funding universities in Australia?
Why are they funding them here in Canada, though, is what I want to know. I mean, this is
I
American tax. Yeah,
I
this
question
is,
them. I question the funding in the amount they fund to American universities. You're only charging kids 30 grand a
yeah,
semester, 80
up to
grand a
50.
semester, depending on what university or college you go to.
Yeah.
You can't work off that money. You need
Uh,
taxpayer money too.
I
I'm
know.
calling bull hockey.
Yeah, and this is one of my biggest concerns because I don't think it's even all those millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars aren't just going into university, let's say, expenses or funds. I think a lot of that's being taken out into, well, a lot of advertising, other experiments, social engineering, basically, and all these different groups we have today that are supporting. And I don't
Right.
even know what we should mention as far as that. I don't even want to mention it because it just blow up the account, but you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah,
So,
but it's in the name of research,
oh,
right?
yeah,
Again, this money's not even going to educating a pupil to teach them whatever. What if they went there for to be a lawyer and they're doing pre-law, but all they like all your resources go to this research about the Botswanan ants, and right, and their need to survive because of climate change.
yeah. You know what? I'm glad you brought that point up because President Trump has made fun of us repeatedly that we spend more on this climate change scam that we're involved in, more than on the military, more than anything in our country so far. As a matter of fact, here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that we have more CRA slash IRS agents than America does, and we have a tenth of the population? Did you know that
Mm.
we have more IRS or CRA agents than we do military readily available? It's about 68,000, I think was the last report I read, and I forgot. I think we're down to 50 something thousand as far as soldiers went, boots on the ground, ready to go. So this is how tax hungry this country has got because we have to fund these big black holes like that thing we call healthcare, which is a joke today, the nickel and diamonds. With all the money we put and spend into this system, they still nickel and diamonds for you got to pay for your own ambulance, you got to pay for your crutches, you got to pay for it's just nonstop. I mean, pretty soon we'll be funding the whole thing and paying on top of it this tax for this healthcare system. So, like I said, it's crazy, and I've been against it since day one. I mean, it's poorly worded. It's individually funded healthcare system, which means again, well, it's taxpayer funded. But people saying it's free, it's not free. It's individually funded. But because the way the liberals worded it, they think, oh yeah, we're all in. It's free. Like government's gone. No, the government money, that's our money. But because they're so smart, Canadians, they don't know that, and the school teachers aren't about to tell them any different because they're riding out the coattails of that uh, system, that liberal union system that they need it. They need to tell kids that to keep them employed and keep their wages because, as they say, they need higher wages because they're forming the minds of the rocket scientists of the future, as they keep saying every time. It drives me crazy, these libtard ads we have from the teachers union. Oh my God, talk about
Hey,
ridiculous.
let me bring this up. So there's a guy, I want to give credit where credit's due. A guy named Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. You can find him online by that search. He's everywhere. Anyways, he brought up with whatever whether it's Canada or America, but he was specifically talking about America. If do we have an institution? Is it supposed to help the citizens, or the only reason the institution is there is so that the institution survives? And that's why we're fighting this. Like the Federal Department of Education, right? Which is right. Like, okay, they do some funding, so about 30% of funding gets laundered to the states. Most schools are like 70% at least are state funded by property taxes. That's the way it is. But all the other stuff they do, they claim they need, I don't know, X amount of thousand employees to do. Again, that's research.
Yeah,
What
there's that.
research? And to share best practices. Why can't the states share best practices between the states? The answer is they can.
Oh,
The Department of Education exists to keep the Department of Education alive.
yeah. Hey, by the way, I think we talked about that last episode, did we not? About that, about if we did get rid of the education, and Canada's just as bad, let's get rid of that whole department altogether, that whole agency altogether, and have the states. No, let's have schools competing against each other so they can have the best teachers, the best schools, the best tax dollars being, and I don't care what state you're from or province. I mean, if you got the best of the best, everybody's going to want to move there or just, quit that school and say, I'll get bused to that one instead because it's a much better school. That's the way it was intended. That's the way it started out. I'm going to go back, 40, 50 years ago? When did Carter, I think it was in the early 70s or
1979.
79. Okay, that's when that whole nightmare started, and
right.
That's when we have this big decay of education. And well, we're not educating anymore. Let's face it; it is basically social engineering, teaching us how to be the citizen of the future and what's expected of us, what we can say and we can't say. It's got stupid. I mean, let's be honest, but. Yeah, you can't say this in public because people think you're crazy. And you could say that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they wouldn't understand what you're even saying because it's just not with them. They just don't understand that stuff. They can't see it. Like our government, they can't see that Canada, the country, it's already been gutted. There's nothing left, but people don't see it because they don't know enough of history. They don't know enough of what's going on, and they don't know enough of how close they are, to being in the gutter on the street kicking stones. They don't even know that.
They don't know about history, but what they were taught in elementary and high school or whatever, like
yeah.
It's been changed. They changed history.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They want to erase all the good stuff and why the separatists came here and how we formed these nations in the West. And like they look at the Louisiana Purchase and the Alaskan Purchase and they go, all of these things are terrible. They're awful. You're all colonizers. And you get the same thing in Canada. And you're like, wait, what? Nobody told you that there was a bunch of warring Indians that all were trying to kill each other for resources? Nobody told you that? They're like, that never happened. There was nobody else. The Indians were all peaceful. They lived together.
I know.
They smoked their pipes. They played music. It was like a hippie commune in Washington, Seattle, Washington. And it was all you white people that came over here and just were brutal.
Well,
the word they're using right now, right? The last 2 days on social media, brutal Americans. They're trying to make it stick. And you know what? It's backfiring because we're posting pictures of the Revolutionary War and going, yeah, brutal Americans, deal with it.
Yeah. I have to laugh at that statement because, we've had some people say that the King Charles, is in talks with Donald Trump regarding, Canada and whatnot and what's going on. Was saying, well, just make it the 51st state, which you could. I mean, the funny thing about what you just said there is, who's going to stop America? What, England and the Seventh Fleet or something? Who's going to stop America? What? Nobody. That's my whole point. Is Canada going to, all of a sudden, throw what? Rolls of toilet paper across the lake or the river at them? I mean, this is crazy.
Social media is the wildest thing. Some of the things I saw were Canadian bot accounts, but again, they're saying, we burned down the White House in 1812. We'll do it again. And I'm like, really?
They burnt down half of Toronto at the same time, so it's like even. It's nowhere.
Would you say you have like 65,000 in your military?
Yeah, well, 58, I think it is, but yeah, it's not much.
and all the weapons you have, the weapon systems you have come from us, which was a good idea, and we would like to continue that, but we also have kill switches on all of them. We have kill switches on the stuff we send to every other country. So
I know.
Go ahead and fly a F-16 at the White House. We're going to turn it off as soon as you cross Lake Erie.
Yep, but they don't know that. They have
fall out of the sky.
They don't have no idea of what they're talking about. I read a lot of these posts myself, think, oh my God, they're in the dark ages. They have no idea how far we've come, where we're even at with everything. So yeah, I just have to ignore it. Sometimes I chuckle, and sometimes I just, it's like the old poem. How can you be that stupid? And I'm almost embarrassed that people are even. And I'm talking about people from our own government that are saying these stupid things. I'm thinking, oh my God, the whole world's listening, and you're beaking off with stupid stuff like that. Please read a book or something. But yeah, and these are the people that we voted in. I don't know how they got in, because some of these people, this one Green Party person, yikes. Yeah, how she ever got voted in and from what area, I do not want to talk to any of those people. If they voted her in, they're all just as smart as she is, if you get my meaning. So yeah, that would be an area I would not want to visit or even drive through. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Well, we've got our own Green Party people here. Thank God they'll never have enough of voters. The other one, and the only one that's interesting, for very, very conservative states that have been conservative like since the Earth was young, they've got a problem too, that where they overtax and they just can't be fiscally conservative. In the Libertarian Party in some of these states like Indiana, is that
hey, is that even? I gotta back you up. Is that even a thing? The Libertarian Party, is that really a thing in the States right now for real? And hey, remember what our friend Rush Limbaugh said about the Libertarian Party? I love that statement.
The Democrat, he doesn't know it yet.
That's it. Yeah, Democratic, but they just don't know it yet. Yeah, exactly. That's the Libertarians right there.
So Hoosiers, Hoosiers, they're just, because they're perpetually red. There's nothing you can do to get away from red. Even if you wanted to tell the Red Party, the Conservative Party, we're sick to death of you increasing our gas tax by 7% every year, increasing our property tax every year with your overinflated assessments. We totally would love to vote Democrat, but we can't even find one to vote for. So I'm being honest with you. In the last, not this one, this would have been in 2020, the gubernatorial race, governor. There was
right. Now,
Donald Rainwater. Well, he pulled like a 30% share of the vote from the three-party system. Like it was like 27%. It was big because Republicans in that state are just pissed off that Republicans they vote them in, and then my taxes just keep going up and up and up, right? And so they're trying to send a message. Rainwater in 24, he ran again. He ran into some issues socially. Stuff came out about him that nobody knew in 2020.
Of course, yeah.
Is it the end of the world? But like these, just the smallest thing will sink a candidate, right? So he didn't turn out as well this time. Well, what the observation here though is, in the super red states, when the super red state legislature does not meet the will of the people, I think that's when you're going to start seeing legitimate third parties pop up at least the state level. At the federal level, oh my God, the Libertarian Party is just not unified. The guy that they put in this time was like a pride flag, dog mask wearing, support of maps. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say any farther.
No, I got you. Yeah.
Right? And you just look at that and go, what? Libertarians, I thought you were trying to be serious, and that's the guy you put in as your presidential candidate?
I know. I didn't think
this level.
I didn't even think they had the people behind them. Now that's pretty big. From the percentages you just gave us, I can't
I'm
believe that.
telling you, the people of Indiana are pissed off at their local or at their state government. Like their property tax is one of the big ones, but like their property taxes since 2021 have gone up by like 71%.
Holy wow! Well,
Right?
hey, the same thing's been going on here though too. So property taxes are one of the sore spots I have. Period. Nobody should have to pay property tax. Period. That should be once you buy your lot of land or your house or whatever. That
Or
should be yours, and it shouldn't be subject to any loss because you didn't pay a property tax or bribe or whatever you want to call it to stay part of the system of the clique. That's yours, and you should be having that for the rest of your life, not taxed. I mean, and that's another thing too. The taxation's got to stop. We got to be more responsible. If you can start sending all our money to all these different countries that they are, then they're collecting way too much tax, and it's unnecessary. So, and no one's saying anything about that. No one's saying anything. Wait a second, all this money we've been collecting, where's it going? And the pictures that we joked about, that one picture where they had a picture of somewhere in Africa. I forget where it was, some plane in Africa, anyways, taken 25, 30 years ago with the old shack tent, type of thing. And then they had a snapshot, 30, 35 years later, the same shack. $5 billion later, nothing's changed. The same shit shack they lived in then, it's the same thing they're doing
yeah,
now. All that money, nothing's changed. And thinking, well, where's all the money going then? So this is the $1 million question. Nobody's answered yet. I have a good idea where it's going, and a lot of our carbon tax, because it's not like our country has like a bank account saying, okay, all the carbon tax is going into this bank account here, so we can be a better country now that we can fix all this. No, it's not happening. It's all going to Europe. People don't know that we are sponsoring the bank failures in Europe. Wasn't Marcus Carney in charge of the bank? Yeah, that guy, that dumb that broke their bank and their system. Now he's over here and he's going to fix ours. Ours is broke because of him. Trudeau was listening to him. He was the number one man for the finance guy because, Chrystia Freeland, yeah, she's no rocket scientist. That's no secret. I mean, we all know that, and he's no better. I mean, maybe they can have basic math, addition and subtraction down, but as far as anything else goes, yeah, no, very bad at it. So I don't know why everybody's so hyped up about this clown we got coming into office now, and hopefully he never stays. I'm hoping that when that election happens on the 28th, that joker gets bounced out back to England or wherever else he came from and never come back and stay there. Get out and stay out. His first two orders should be just that. So
well, that's the question. So it was like when I looked at the calendar, like 33 days from now, there's an election. Who's running? Is there anybody from the Conservative Party running besides Pierre?
No, just Maxime Bernier, but that's the People's Party of Canada. That's a newer one. Started about, I don't know, was it 5, 6 years ago? I can't remember. 2018, 2019. So about 2018, I guess it was that it get kicked off officially. I think because that's when he left the Conservative Party. I think 2018. So good guy. Met the guy. Great guy. Great ideas. He knows exactly what's wrong and what's broke. Will the rest of the people go with him? Like I said, I don't know. The West is sick and tired of French prime ministers. I don't blame them because they've done a lot of damage over the years from Trudeau all the way along. But and it's unfortunate for Max because he is a great guy. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. I can't tell you that. So as long as it's not a liberal party, and hey, all anybody has to say to be a victor in this country is. I'm not for United Nations. I don't want any United Nations policy running our country or dictating anything to us and any of its branches, either like the WEF, the WHO, NATO, all of any one of the branches of the United Nations. If we just get out of them and be a standalone country, we'll be successful and we can be parity and even party with the states as a whole, the West again. We can actually be the West again, but we're not right now. We're so divided because these newbies coming up now are so into United Nations policies, thinking they're going to save the day, and that's just not going to happen. So it's it's going to go from bad to worse, and people don't see it because they can't think. They don't know enough, and they don't care enough in Canada. We only care about politics. 2 days before the election, we'll listen to CBC News and say, yeah, what they're saying is gospel, that's fact, that's true, and we're going to vote according to what CBC or CTV, another libtard organization, or Global or some other idiot station like that that's so far left, and they keep turning left and keep turning left even further that they're pretty much communist right now. So yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah. So all right. So I've got a pretty good understanding on that.
Lots changed since last time.
Doesn't look good. At least we have. At least there's a chance with Pierre's not great. The Pierre's at least in the conservative fish party. And I think, listen, he's talking big against Trump and screw you, screw your tariffs. I don't think if he actually was in and had like the government and had to look at the books, he'd probably go, uh-oh.
Yeah. No, we both know that's right.
Right.
Well, he's been a long-standing political person. I don't think he's ever held a job. I don't remember. I think he got into politics at 22, 23 years old and has stayed there. I don't think he's ever had a job where he bossed before, aside from, what the higher ups of the chain would tell him to do. I don't think he's ever been anywhere about that.
Right. He never had to make a payroll.
Right. Yes. No. That's right. So
if you're ever responsible for a payroll, you know this. I know this. Like everything is on the line because those people are depending on that check. You have to.
I know.
You can't just go, screw it. It's fine. Whatever. We'll deal with it next week.
Yeah. Well, as a government, they keep borrowing money whenever they find themselves in holes anyways, which is not like a business because you can't do that. And our banking system up here is not like it is down there. Ours is it's government controlled or regulated. So we already know it's a government institution. It is not, free and independent on its own like most people think. Well, it's the bank. It's not. It's still, because we're such a socialist society, and we haven't even talked about marketing boards yet. Don't even get me going that most Canadians don't even know we have marketing boards. We're so socialist and communist minded, they don't even realize all this stuff. So we had a free market period to work with, they would know different. But because we have the government to rely on from all these marketing boards, I don't care if it's dairy, I don't care if it's wheat, it's all marketing boards. Everything controls everything. So we haven't even touched on that yet. But people, like I said, most Canadians are not taught this in the school system because the government doesn't want anybody to know how things work, which is why Trudeau couldn't give Trump an answer about, the tariff. What happens if we tariff your country? Well, Trudeau didn't know enough about our marketing board to say, well, we can still work around the marketing boards by doing this. No, he didn't know enough about it because he's an idiot. That's what we had in office, an idiot. Well, the libtards, they don't know anything either. They have no idea what's going on. All they do is listen to the United Nations and their policies and where do we go from here? What's our next step? And then they tell them and they do it. We don't have any independence as a country anymore, and Canadians don't know that. We've already been lost a long time ago. We've fallen. We just haven't hit the ground yet. That's right. Where we're at. It's slow. We are almost there. We just haven't hit the ground yet, and people don't know it. So to think that Trump, big bad orange man, as we always joke about, is our problem, it's not. He's just pointing out our problems, and nobody's got there yet. They think, oh, wow, he's not our problem. He's just basically telling us what our problems are, and no one has the answer because they don't know anything. So, that's Canada in a nutshell.
There we go. So I'll get into this. We got 7 minutes left. It doesn't, whether it takes that long or doesn't take that long. The 51st state. So remember, when Trump does something, he starts from the top, and there's some rules to Trumpism. The first rule is Trump always wins. The second rule is a deal can always be made as long as it adheres to the first rule.
Number one. Trump always wins.
This whole state thing. Look, it could happen. It couldn't happen. But I think in the long run, what Trump is trying to do is get Canada back on the Team West. Because Europe's gone at this point. Europe has got so much they're going through. France is gone. I mean, Germany almost gone.
Oh,
United England gone. Right?
what
Like
a
it's awful what they did to themselves. And
I
the
know.
only true West left is America, which almost was gone in November, right? If they would have voted in Kamala. And, people who watch this, you can argue with me. I know, I don't care. We'll get into the later podcast, but the West was almost lost. I think where Trump's coming, he's like, hey, Canada, yeah, I might sound like a bully, but you're part of what we could do to rebuild the West.
Yeah.
With
And we need to
because
have the West back. We need that definite distinction of being the West again and not being, well, we ran away from Europe for the same problems we're running into today. And no one realizes that. Let's be, the separatists that we started out being separate and apart from that political nightmare over there and be the standalone. Well, actually, America was the one that succeeded in kicking out. And I have no idea, Sean, for the life of me, why some Americans came to Canada and some Canadians went to the States when that whole thing happened. It was ridiculous. Why anybody want to come up here and stick with the crown is beyond me. I know why some of the Canadians left here and went down there. That makes sense to me. But I can't understand why my family, why they came up here. I don't know. It's beyond me.
Edward, they're Tories. The Tories are notoriously, they've always been. Now, looking at as a political party, they've tried to change their identity, but Tories are Crown sympathizers. And there was
Yeah,
Tories in
they are.
the United States, there was Tories inside of Canada, and so they fled to the most Crown-friendly area. And this would have been not just in the Revolution, this would also have been in the War of 1812, which we have not talked about enough. We
No,
will
we
do
haven't.
we will
Good
do
one.
that on another episode and explain how the French, like a lot of people say, well, the Americans, they were only saved by the French in 1812. No, we paid a massive debt to the French to
Oh, yeah.
get to use their army and their navy.
Yeah.
This is not a gift from the French. And the French were fighting the British, which are a neighbor to them. I mean, this is a whole. We'll do this on this is totally another Yankee and the Canuck podcast, just the War
True.
of 1812.
Yeah, that's what huge conversation just there, the War of 1812, and just because we have so much history here, from Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lake,
Yep.
Mount Pleasant, all these different areas where they came so close, but we had to push them back. The Americans, I mean, that was where the British last stand was. I mean, it came close. It wasn't like overwhelming from the redcoats or overwhelming from the Americans. It was so closely tied and fought, and look how big Britain was at the time to what America was.
Right.
I mean, you have to think, wow, of all the odds, of America overcoming over that, all that amazes me, and I don't think people talk about that enough. But yeah, that's a whole that you could do.
Jefferson and Madison literally went for a year in 1810 and they hated each other. American politicians, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison.
I didn't know that.
And stayed in France and lobbied to buy the French army and navy. Right?
That?
Yeah. So, because we're like, listen, Britain has the biggest navy and army in the world. We need some help here if we're going to actually free everybody from the crown. And that was the whole plot.
Yeah.
France, we want to free you from the crown too, but you're going to have to pay the price in blood. We'll pay you back in gold.
But that's the problem. Not enough Canadians, not only do they not see the problem because they're too short-sighted and they don't know the end game of the whole thing. They don't see their end in this whole game because it's coming. And when communism comes, they think, oh, well, just, I'll sit up while everybody else is working around me, suffering and struggling. I'll be so safe from it all. They don't realize, no, they're coming after their money too, and they'll be wiped out. I don't care if it goes to, and I forget even the name of the tax rate now. It escapes me, but capital gains. once they realize it's going to be almost 80 to 90% coming up, and it's happened throughout history, it's not going to change. It's the same playbook. It's going to wipe them out, and then they're going to find themselves with nothing like everybody else, because that's what communism does. It keeps taking and taking and taking until just the government is left, and you're not getting past the government because they're paying the army and the police. So, and they're happy to be paid, and they'll do whatever the government says. Jump how high? Do what to people? Okay, fine. They're not wearing a mask? Okay, I'll bust their arms and throw them down and put them in prison. Yeah, that's the attitude that they're going to have when they don't see it. That's their end. And they can't see the end of themselves in this whole game. And this is the problem that I've been talking about. But you know what? Serves them right. You just can't fix the dumbness out there, and you can't teach them. You can't. There's nothing left. And let's not get into the churches right now either, because that's a whole other conversation.
Well, no, we're running up against the buzzer.
Right.
So episode 3, maybe. Well, who knows? We'll surprise you, but it might be 1812, and it might be the indoctrination camps in the West.
Oh.
That have people just not understanding, have students that become voters that don't understand what me and Edward just talked about, right?
We need a Charlie Kirk up here. Yeah.
Taught that it's incorrect. But we're up against the buzzer. I'll message you after this, but let's close it out. We hit the mark.
Okay, very good. Yes.
Episode 2, the Yankee and The Canuck with Sean and Edward. It will be available on Spotify and Spotify and YouTube tomorrow. Right now, it is currently available on Rumble, Locals, Stitch, and X. Go find it, share it, send it to your friends. See you later.
See ya.